Hello, everyone. Right, hold on. This looks to be working now. Apologies for any technical problems. I am a couple of minutes late. This is the first time I've done a stream in, a good while. Yeah, I am assuming that I am live now on both Facebook and LinkedIn, which is fantastic if that's the case. I suppose I'll find out if that is the case. So hopefully there are plenty of people watching live. If you are watching live, then do drop a comment in on whatever platform you're on, just so I can see who's watching live. If you're watching this on a replay, just put replay. Um, It'll just be quite interesting for me to see who's watching and who's watching on what. So I'm already a couple of minutes late, so I am gonna crack on. Um, so I thought this would be an interesting little experiment to do a quick, hopefully it's going to be about 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. A quick live to talk to you about something that if you've been looking at my posts recently, you'll understand or you'll pick up on some of the themes that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about estate agent marketing mistakes because when I work with clients, and I work with clients throughout the UK, Scotland, all the way down to Devon and Cornwall, and I work with them on a number of different levels. You may know me from talking about property listings, and I help agents with their property listing copy. But I also, even before I started doing that, what I've spent a number of years doing is helping agents to grow their business, to attract more landlords and sellers, earn higher fees, generally make their business a better one. And it's that side of things that I'm going to be focusing on today. So when I work with those agents, I do notice a number of common trends, which doesn't matter if you are Highlands of Scotland all the way down to the South Coast. A number of common trends do appear to affect any agents, and I think it's common for estate agents and letting agents as well. So this is the first of what could potentially be a number of lives if there seems to be interest and people get value out of it, covering what I consider to be some pretty significant mistakes that agents are making that if you stop making them and instead do something slightly different, it'll make a massive difference to the success of your business. So what I want to talk about is, let me just see if I can move the slide on. Yeah, good. So what I often find is good agents are making simple but costly mistakes with their marketing. And in a way, that's nothing to be ashamed about because it's not your fault. Most estate agents aren't marketers. Certainly letting agents, I would say the same. The skills and experience and traits that make a good estate agent and letting agent don't necessarily make a good marketer. And what that does is it means they are at the mercy of the advice that's out there. And there is a lot of marketing advice out there. The irony is I'm now with this live adding to it. There's a lot of marketing advice out there, but it would be fair to say, me coming from my experience of being involved in some pretty impressive award-winning marketing for the last 30 odd years, what I do see is that a lot of the marketing advice that's out there aimed specifically at agents isn't great. Now, there's a number of reasons for that, and I really don't have the time to go into it in this live. But I think one of the key things that strikes me as someone who's got experience in marketing, not just in the property sector, but in a whole host of different industries, is that a lot of the advice that's being given is quite generic and quite broad. And it is not specific for the property sector. Now, yeah, some marketing techniques, strategies, tactics work pretty much whatever you're doing, whatever industry you're in, whatever you're selling. Others, because of the quirks of the market and the process that you need to go through to achieve a sale, don't work quite so well. And I think quite often the mistakes that agents are making is because they are doing generic marketing that isn't ideally set up for the ideal client, the ideal seller, or the ideal landlord, and attracting them. So I'm going to be talking about marketing mistakes in terms of attracting sellers and landlords today, not marketing properties and doing property listings, anything like that. The mistakes that I'm going to be talking about today and further on are going to be about getting more landlords and sellers, making those landlords and sellers the best possible clients that they possibly can be. So the thing that I'm going to talk today is something which I've seen becoming increasingly common and popular as a strategy. And that strategy is attract, nurture, convert. It's pretty well established. And if you have a look at many different sort of marketing textbooks or sources, something along these lines will probably feature. Now, the issue that I have with this is not the attract side of things and not necessarily the convert side of things. It's on nurture, because by that very nature, it's suggesting that the whole courtship process, for want of a better word, is a long-term thing. And that might be the case. There will be people who have a need, and that need is immediate. Right now, I call it having, an immediate itch to scratch. There will be other people who may not be ready to act quite so quickly. But the whole concept of attract, nurture, convert is that it is going to be a long-term process, which isn't always necessarily the case. And the issue that I have, and I've got a couple of issues with the whole sort of nurture thing. The biggest one is that actually it's a bit of a comfort blanket, and it's dangerous because it doesn't actually solve the real most pressing problem that many agents really would much prefer to solve. And that problem is how to go from total stranger to trusted advisor in a short space of time. Now, typically, the way agents do it, whether they spend money on their advertising or whether they just use free sources or something like that, the typical way that an estate agent or a letting agent would go from attract to convert in a short space of time is through what I call the free valuation beauty parade, where you and probably 2 or 3 other competitors are invited out to sit with the seller, sit with the landlord, have a conversation, you do your pitch. At some point you have a chat about fee, and one of you will come away with the business. That is an entrenched, pretty well established part of the whole courtship dance in estate agents winning the business of sellers and landlords. And if you're interested, I've got a whole video and an article on the whole, what I call free valuation beauty parade. It's not ideal. It's not ideal from an agent's point of view. It's not ideal from a seller or a landlord's point of view. It doesn't encourage good sensible long-term decisions to be made. It is what it is. And I think the whole nurture thing, in a way, is a bit of a safety blanket. It's a bit of a sticking plaster. It feels reassuring because with the whole attract, nurture, convert thing, the advice is typically to put something out there which someone who might not be ready to act right now is interested in. And they will then give you their email address. You will then deliver whatever the thing is. And having got their email address, you then follow up with them over the days, weeks, months, however long, until miraculously one day they wake up and go, aha, now I need an estate agent. And at that point, they have a conversation with you. That is the whole attract, nurture, convert thing. Now, in a way, it's reassuring for the agent because the whole funnel, which a lot of people will try and sort of talk to you about having a funnel where you funnel people down, you get their email address, you communicate with them. That whole thing, there's a process involved, and there is probably some form of software or tech involved. It feels like a process. It feels like you're doing a thing. It feels like you're actually doing work. My question is how effective that is. And moving on to the next point, how effective it is when you're thinking about your ideal sellers. Now, when I start to work one-to-one with a client to help them to grow their business, we go through an exercise, which is often quite a painful one because people don't tend to like doing this. We go through an exercise where we try to get under the skin of who their ideal seller is. And this would apply for a letting agent, for landlords as well. Now, interestingly, when we go through that exercise and we get into real detail, one of the things that I would say more than 50% of the time, the agent doesn't immediately communicate is that to be ideal, the perfect possible seller, the one who, if everybody was like them, you would be having a wonderful day, your team would be delighted, your estate agency office window would be full of the best possible properties that sell themselves, and everything's rosy in the garden. Now, to be ideal, surely that seller needs to act or want to act now. They have an immediate need. They have an immediate itch to scratch. So the point I'm making there is, given most estate agents and letting agents have limited marketing budgets, and quite often the more important factor is limited time to do the marketing stuff, surely you should be focusing your efforts and all your attention on attracting your ideal sellers, not your less than ideal sellers. And if that's the case, surely your focus should be on people who don't want to be nurtured. It should be on people who have that immediate need that needs to be satisfied. Hopefully that makes sense. And if that does make sense, then you'll understand that actually nurturing over weeks and months doesn't actually solve the real pressing problem. It's a bit of a distraction. It can be a hell of a distraction. The real problem needs to be how to actually go from, as I said before, total stranger to trusted advisor in a short space of time. Now, the flip side of the coin is that really, when it comes down to it, agents don't really want to nurture. They've just sort of bought into this thing because people have told them that that's what they should be doing. They should be, having a free valuation tool on their website, which captures email addresses, and then they get that email address, they get people's permission to email out to them, and they've just sort of bought into it. But what I know from working with agents is that Usually everything's okay. And if you're nodding along in agreement when I say this, put a comment in the group. More often than not, agents are quite excited about coming up with a lead magnet. And I hope you understand the term lead magnet, some form of bribe that a potential seller or landlord is prepared to give up their email address in order to get. So, there's various different ways you can do it. The most common ones, you can have like a free valuation tool. Um, and I talk about that online free valuation tools on a separate video. Not a great fan, but I'm not going to expand on that now. Otherwise, you can have a PDF or a report or something like that. Usually, it's an electronic downloadable thing or a video or something like that. It's very rarely tangible. So normally agents are quite excited about coming up with a thing because it feels like they're making a thing. And they're normally reasonably excited about getting all the tech side of things dialed in so that you have to have probably a landing page or at least some form of form on your website. And then that's got to connect into a CRM, and then something's got to deliver the email, which has got the PDF. And all that's quite exciting because it feels like you're building stuff. Where it falls down, and this is from my experience of working with many agents, is where it falls down is not when someone's actually requested your thing. Where it tends to fall down is 3, 4, 6 months later, when actually you realize, hold on, this is a bit of a runaway train. If I'm getting people's email addresses and I'm spending money to get them, either through just paying a subscription for the software you need to do it all, or you might actually be paying a service or paying Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever to actually do some ads. If you're paying money to get these email addresses, then you need to be actually doing something with them. And where it typically falls down is the agents running out of steam, running out of ideas for stuff to actually get out there. And more often than not, it just sort of fizzles out. The agents who do it well actually are the ones who realize this at the outset or as they see it happening and tend to outsource it. That then delivers them, excuse me, a minimum amount of stuff, whether it's a weekly blog post or something like that. Those are the ones who have success. And I think if you are going to get any success from the attract, nurture, convert strategy, then I would strongly suggest you do factor in and budget for outsourcing the content creation, because it is pretty much without fail where most agents fall down. And that means all of the money and time and effort and everything else that you spent to get that up and running is completely wasted. So this isn't me pitching for this because I don't do that sort of content. I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. But there are plenty of people who can do that for you. So agents struggle with the nurture thing, and ideally, they would much rather be in a position where someone comes to them and goes from unknown to client in a very short space of time. That would be ideal. And that would be an ideal seller. Now, it can be done. And it's relatively simple to do it. I wouldn't say it's easy to do it, but it is relatively simple. And actually, in a way, estate agents and letting agents are quite lucky because of the nature of the service that they provide. They are one of the industries that can potentially skip the nurture stage. There are some other industries where it is less the case, and there are 3 factors which need to be in play if you're going to stand a reasonable chance of skipping the nurture stage. And they are: number one, you need to solve a big problem. And I think that's a pretty unequivocal tick in the box for estate agents and letting agents, because you're either helping people to move on in a new stage of their life, or maximize their investment. A little facet of that of solving a big problem is being expensive in a way, because people don't tend to spend big money solving small problems. So the fact that it is in the seller or the landlord's eyes a big problem does give you permission to charge a higher fee. The second aspect that needs to be present is the ability to pay. And this is something which is fantastic for estate agents and letting agents, because obviously the fees come from the proceeds of sale or the let. So that's another pretty immediate tick in the box in terms of the client isn't going to have to run around draining their savings account or whatever to pay, because 9 times out of 10, your fees will come out of the proceeds of the sale or the first month's rent. So solve a big problem, tick. Ability to pay, tick. The third one, and this is a much bigger subject, which I think does demand a separate treatment all of its own. The third one, which I'm just going to say for now, is pretty much accepted as a given, is for your ideal client, urgency. So if you've got someone who, in their own mind, in their own perception, has a big urgent problem that they need fixing, and they're able to pay you, then you can skip the nurture stage. But if you're not going to do the nurturing, what do you need in its place? And this graphic here should hopefully show you, hopefully my face up in the corner isn't obscuring it. So you will see in the triangle, there's a nice star and a few different little words in there, but on the outside we have attract, convert, and crucially, rather than nurture, we have resonate. And you may have seen me talking about this in recent posts, that I think it is far more important that you as an agent resonate with your ideal seller or your ideal landlord, and they can see that you're speaking their language and you are saying something that actually rises above just the sea of stuff that's out there. And I think it's a bit of a tangent, but in terms of the sea of stuff, ChatGPT is both a blessing and a curse, because ChatGPT, being a large language model, it's not AI like Terminator, which is going to take over the planet. It's basically just a huge database, and it produces results which are, by their very nature, the average of all that it can see. So you ask it to write you a blog post about X, it'll trawl the internet and go, well, in the past, when people have been asked to write blog posts about X, this is what they've done. So that's what it'll do. The problem comes, and the problem will come further on down the line, when it's stirring its own porridge, for want of a better word, because as ChatGPT churns out more stuff, give it 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, ChatGPT will be referencing ChatGPT generated content. So everything just gets dumber. So more marketing stuff isn't the answer. The answer, and unfortunately it's tricky if you don't know what you're doing. The answer is to produce stuff which actually rises above the noise. And that's where resonating with your target audience comes in. The good thing is that actually it can be very quick. It doesn't take months of drip, 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 wearing people down one email at a time. You can say something and people just go, oh yeah, I really get that. I really get where they're coming from. They really understand me. They understand my needs. That's the person who I want to speak to. We all know as we've been going about our lives, that sort of thing will have happened to us. The problem comes, and this is where I think many agents fall down, is the the focus, therefore, must be on the message, not the media. And this these which were in the previous triangle graphic before, this is what I call my A-list framework, which I talk about in my book 5 Mile Famous. And you'll see there, A-list is spelled out through authority, local, inspiration, stories, and traffic. If you haven't got a copy of the book, go and get the book. It's on Amazon. You can get it from my website. It'll take you an hour, 90 minutes to read, and well worth your time to do that. The problem that most estate agents and letting agents have is that most of the time when they think about their marketing, they only focus on the traffic side of things. If you say to an agent, what marketing are you doing? They will say, I'm doing Facebook ads, or I'm doing leafleting, or I'm doing cold calling or door knocking. That doesn't tell me about the marketing that they're doing. It only tells me the communication method, the method of delivery. So actually, of all of those 5 things, and I'm very clear in the book about this, of those 5 things, really, more often than not, traffic gets far too much focus. And really, traffic should be the final piece in the jigsaw. What you need to do, and what you need to do in order to resonate, is all the other stuff, is speak from a position of authority. And to do that, you need to focus on a particular area or a particular aspect of your local property market, or a particular type of property, or a particular type of seller or landlord, or flip it and you know have the bait to catch the fish in terms of a relationship with a particular type of buyer or tenant. So you need to come from a position of authority. You need to be local. You need to be localized. You need to actually be inspiring and remarkable. And the definition of remarkable is pretty much, have people spontaneously remark about you without prompting, which, let's be honest, I'm not sure many agents can do. And just as a bit of a hint, did you see that blah blah estates just won best customer service at the Esters? Doesn't count because nobody ever says that ever. And in order to resonate, the human brain is hardwired to accept and understand and retain stories and storytelling better than it does other types of communication. So that's the sort of stuff that you need to do in order to resonate. And the bonus for doing that is, I mentioned it can be very quick. You can go from total stranger to trusted advisor in a very short space of time. But it's also long lasting as well. I think one of the problems that agents have, and whether it's nurturing through emails or whether it's coming up with social media posts, it's just a never-ending treadmill or hamster wheel of the need to do more stuff. And yes, this isn't a one and done approach. You do need to be, consistent in what you're communicating. But actually, if you are speaking from a position of authority, and you have a particular remarkable or inspiring standpoint, which remains consistent, you can't flip-flop from one week to the next, then actually it takes the pressure off in terms of the just general day-to-day content that you need to produce. And it can be long lasting, as I said. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an understanding as to why I think attract, nurture, convert isn't the best way for estate agents to go about convincing a potential seller or landlord that they are the best person to win the business, and that actually a subtle but powerful shift to attract, resonate, and convert will have a much better chance of success. And conscious of time, what time are we on? Oh, that's flown by. Stopping doing bad marketing stuff and instead replacing it with good marketing stuff, I'm being quite simplistic here, can have a pretty significant impact on your business. And how do we measure that? Well, one of the best ways is your fee pipeline, certainly on the sales side, in terms of the number of properties that are under offer going to go through to completion. It's a good way to benchmark your success. And I've got a new tool which is on my website and will allow you to receive a calculation of what your fee pipeline could be if you change your marketing approach. Stop doing the bad marketing stuff, start doing the good marketing stuff. And it's very quick and easy to do. It'll take you less than 2 minutes. There are 9 questions. And they're all pretty simple. You can see the first one there on the screen. How do you get your seller leads? And you fill that in, and you then will get a fully personalized answer back within 24 hours. Now, if you want to do that, if you want to go and check that out, then I'll leave this up on screen for a while. That's a QR code, which will take you directly to that page. There's the URL if you want to type it in, assuming I can do so, because this is all new and exciting to me in terms of the technology. Assuming I can do so, I will leave that in that URL in the comments. So that's it. That's it for this first one. There are, unfortunately, many more marketing mistakes that I have highlighted that estate agents are currently making. And I plan to do a number of these lives. Hopefully you found some value in it. Please do put in the comments if you have. Equally, if you think I don't have a clue and really need to stop talking about this, then put that in the comments as well, because every day is a school day and it's useful for me to know. So hopefully you found it useful and interesting, whether you're watching it live now. If you are, great, hi. If you're not, then pick it up on the replay, and yeah, look forward to seeing your comments and seeing what you thought. So thanks for that, and I will hopefully see you on the next one, whenever that is.